Hey, this is Richard Light Engadget, and we just want to give you guys a more thorough walkthrough of our Meizu MX review unit here. Now, before we forget, we just want to quickly mention that one of the most interesting features on the MX are the situation-aware light keys down here at the bottom. And right now, when the phone's on standby, the lights actually blink slowly to indicate that there are notifications for you. Well, for me. So yeah, let's move swiftly on. So, as you can see, this is a 4-inch display and is actually an ASV LCD manufactured by Sharp. So these are the same guys who made this display for the M9, and it also shares the same resolution at 960 by 640, which is the same as the iPhone, obviously. But having said that, we haven't really noticed much of quality deterioration due to the lower pixel density. In fact, for what it's worth, the color has improved slightly, and so have the viewing angles. Now, just have a quick look at the bottom of the phone. Another big change from the M9 is this home button. It's actually of a dome shape now. So obviously it's very easy to locate by just touch and feel, but at the same time you've got to be more careful. You must try to avoid putting the phone facing downwards, because we've already noticed some light scratches at the tip of the dome. Other than that, it actually feels pretty good, and it does make the phone more unique in a way, if you know what we mean. And as you can see, these buttons are of a dot matrix nature, and what they do is they can actually tell you whether the buttons are usable depending on the situation. So right now, as you can see, at the home screen, the back button doesn't do anything, so it just goes idle like that. And likewise, we go into, say, the settings menu. The menu button down here isn't doing anything, so it just goes idle. And if we go into, say, the photo gallery, and you see that the buttons also rotate according to the orientation. It can go both ways as well. So it's pretty cool, very, very unique, especially amongst the vast number of Android devices these days. And we'll just keep talking about the hardware on the outside. So on the left we have a white volume rocker and nothing else. At the top you get the 3.5mm headphone jack, and there's also a power button here. It's all clean on this side, and then finally you have the micro USB port down here, which also supports HDMI output and SPDIF digital audio output. As for these two little dots here, well, we'll come back to that in a bit. And on the back we have an 8-megapixel camera, which is a backside illuminated sensor. So if it should be the one that's manufactured by Sony and used by various other phones these days. So the quality should be okay, but we'll talk about it in our review. And there's obviously a flashlight. Oh, and we almost forgot to mention that the camera supports 1080p Full HD video recording as well. Now, to our surprise, the back cover actually comes off, but it takes a bit of working. What you have to do is put your fingernail or something, a piece of guitar pick or something, and run your, oops, so you can see, run your finger from the micro USB port and all the way along the edge. And there you go. It took us a little while to get used to it, but after a while, you just do it. Obviously, you need a bit of nail to accomplish this as well. And as you can see, and we actually mentioned this before during our hands-on, the funny thing is the camera flashlight is actually embedded into the cover, using these metal contact points to get some power juice from the phone. And here you are. This is the layout of the circuit, pretty much. And as you can see here, as indicated by this little logo here, the SIM card is accessible using this little tray. It's very flimsy, so you've got to be more careful about it. Just pop this back in. Oh, since it's spring-loaded as well, you've got to make sure it clicks. And yes, the battery itself, even though it looks like it's removable, it isn't. So don't fiddle with it unless you are actually intentionally looking for some trouble. There's also the mono speaker on here, which I forgot to point out just now. So the sound comes out through these two slits. But that's pretty much it. So let's put this back on. And not sure if you guys can actually see it, but the cover itself has this sort of a crystal effect. What it is there's about 1 millimeter thick of white plastic, which is covered by another 1 millimeter thick of some transparent layer. If we zoom in to here, maybe you can just about see it. Just see the side. So what this means is you actually get sort of a slight 3D effect when you look at the logo, because of its shadow on the white layer, and likewise with when you're looking at it on the side. If we switch on the light a bit here, hopefully it becomes more apparent. So you can see you get the various lighting effects, the different. It's kind of hard to describe this without the right technical words, but basically the promotional photos, the product shots don't do much justice to the actual look and feel, and it gives it a very premium look and feel here, and we really dig it because frankly we are getting a bit tired of the soft touch texture on many phones these days. Still, it's arguably it might not be as practical as the matte texture you get on many of the soft touch covers these days, but it's different. It's just very unique, very different, and it's also very solid as well, especially compared to the M9. Okay, so it's time to look at the software. So this is the unlock screen, and down here you get these three buttons, and if you drag them up you will actually launch the according app. Well, only two apps here effectively. So obviously here you can pull up the dialing pad, and so pretty self-explanatory here. And you can also look up your contacts just like that, making calls. You can also look up your contacts using these other buttons here. And you can look at the settings, and let's have a look at what's available. So you can actually set decline call and send SMS function here. So if you decline call, it will automatically send out a text message to that same number. So it's pretty handy. You can also block spam calls, and you can create your own list. And actually, Meizu also has a public blacklist somewhere, but we haven't been able to load it up. But it's probably more suitable for the mainland Chinese users anyway. So yep, and this is the home screen. Again, very self-explanatory. Oh, there is one thing though. Unlike most Android operating systems, this OS, very much like MIUI on Xiaomi phone, all the apps are just spread across your home screens rather than having a dedicated app area. So in other words, if you're more familiar with iOS, then this will be an easy transition for you to move from there. But if you're used to the traditional Android operating systems, then you might not. It'll take you some time to get used to it, basically. There are various widgets that come on the phone, like this. Oops, we just switched off our GPS. So yeah, this one is for toggling your various radios and data connection. There's also news and weather widget, like that. Another fairly unique feature on the MX is the M Store, which is Meizu's very own app store. But as you can see, most of the apps here are tailored for the mainland Chinese users. But still, there are a lot of free apps here, and this is also one of the a more convenient way for mainland Chinese users to obtain apps, as opposed to getting them from the Android market from Google, because, well, for obvious reasons that we won't go into too much detail right here, but you can look at our previous coverage about the whole up and down. Other than that, the Meizu MX doesn't come with many other apps really. But let's have a quick look at the browser. And in case you missed it, this button down here in the middle is actually your browser. So it might not be as obvious to first-time users, but you'll eventually find it. We are loading this over some slow Wi-Fi right now, so we're not doing much justice to the actual browser performance. But as you can see, pinch to zooming is very, very smooth. Oh, if we just spin around, pretty slick again. And you can also obviously create bookmarks, and also you can start open new tabs. You can just delete them by clicking the top part of it. And let's just have a look at our bookmarks. Luckily we haven't got anything dodgy here. So let's load up Engadget.com, which is obviously one of our favorite sites. So while it's still loading, you can see the scrolling is actually very slick anyway. And because of the high resolution, the text is also pretty visible, even at that zoom level, but obviously you'd want to zoom in a bit. And as you zoom in, the text wraps around to fit the screen size. So again, smooth scrolling is very smooth. And let's just have a go at loading up videos to see the flash performance. Now, speaking of videos, the phone didn't come with Adobe Flash pre-installed, which is understandable these days. Let's see if it loads. There we go. Here we go. If we rotate it, it looks pretty good. Oh, just trying to click on. Let's see what it does if we force it to play in HD. Here we go. So HD playback isn't as slick, but that's probably more likely Adobe Flash's fault. So we'll just leave it at that. And last but not least, we should have a look at the camera app. So there isn't a dedicated camera button, so you have to launch it on the home screen. But you can actually use the volume up button to use it as your shutter button. But obviously it's just a volume button, so you can't hold it down to focus. When you click on it, it takes a picture straight away. And if you use volume down, you can toggle between video recording mode and photo mode. So ideally you should hold it like that, so you can have the volume button at the top. And what you can do is, if we just have a look at the menu button, there are 3 capture modes. You get the standard normal mode, you can also use the smile detection mode and panorama mode. And if we have a quick look at panorama, oh, unfortunately you have to use it at its designated orientation. So once we take the first picture, so let's say if we start from here, and you can see the indicator at the top will tell you how far around you've been. Obviously the slower the better, and let's just see what the output is like. And you can see, not bad at all. Yeah, in fact it's pretty good. And it's pretty hard for us to demonstrate the smile detection here, but we'll let you know what it's like in our review. quickly walk you guys through the camera app. These are the various ISO levels that you can set, and various scenes. You can also use what they call a wide dynamic mode, which is basically HDR. But unlike many other phones, you actually have 3 levels to set here, and we find that we prefer to have low switched on most of the time to get the best picture quality in even in the normal daylight. Photo size wise, goes all the way up to 8 megapixels, obviously, and you can set it to lower for if you want to save reduce file size. White balance, pretty self-explanatory, and you can switch on and off your location, and that's pretty much it. If we just switch back to video mode, you can one of the funny things is by default it forces you to 1080 by 720, which is a very bizarre resolution anyway. We're still not sure why manufacturers force you to 720p by default. I mean, obviously you will save a lot more storage space on your phone by using 720p instead of 1080p, but if you're advertising 1080p recording for your product, then surely you should be setting to 1080p anyway. But anyhow, that's our rant over. Again, various scene modes and white balance. So all self-explanatory, and obviously you can switch on and off your flash here. And if we just go back to photo mode, you can have it on auto or on and or off. And there's obviously the front-facing camera here. Hello everyone, and like we said, the quality isn't that great for taking photos. So if you see couples taking pictures using the front-facing camera, please tell them to just give you the phone and you can take one for them. And that's pretty much it for the camera. And we'll just quickly show you guys the settings here. So here you can switch on flight mode or turn off the phone. Actually, the reason why they have 2 modes here is because according to Meizu, the definition of flight mode is where you cannot switch on the Wi-Fi at all. So if you have flight mode on, you can't switch on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, obviously. You get sound display, USB mode, blah 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 blah. Actually, we've noticed that a lot of weird things have been switched off. Well, a lot of things have been switched off by default, which is very weird, like haptic feedback. Even the CPU level by default is set to normal, and by that it means it would cap the clock speed to up to 1 gigahertz only. So early on in our review we didn't notice this, so we had to switch this back to high to push it up to 1.4 gigahertz to get the most out of it. So before we move on, we'd like to talk about this little gem that we came across, which is the remote control feature. So what's happening here is we have 2 MXs on the same Wi-Fi network, and once you've got things set up, you should see the host device on the list, and once you click on it, you get full access of the other device straight away. In terms of input response, it's pretty much instantaneous, as you can see here. But obviously the video feed is slightly delayed, which is understandable. And there are actually certain things that you can't see or can't do. So one thing is that you can't see the live video from, say, the camera app and the video player. So that's a bit of a shame, but like we said, the input is still instantaneous. So you can take pictures of your victim if you really want to. Another problem we came across is that you cannot do pinch to zooming from the controlling device. We're guessing there's some sort of technical limitation here, maybe a lack of bandwidth between the 2 devices, but the user on the original device can still do the usual stuff, which includes pinch to zooming, so it's not the end of the world here. And all in all, this remote control feature is pretty useful for troubleshooting some issues remotely, or even just to show people around the operating system. And kudos to Meizu for integrating this pretty unique feature. Oh, one last thing. If you hold down the menu button here on the home screen, you get this task manager, and again you get all the radio toggling switches. You can toggle between your various network modes. You can select other Wi-Fi hotspots, and you can jump between apps or kill apps here. And obviously there's also the music player. And if you hold down the power switch, you can switch off the phone, restart the phone, and toggle silent mode, vibration, flight mode, and phone off, and rotation lock. It's not as intuitive as MIUI, obviously, where you could pull down things from the notification tray. So in some ways we just wish that we could port MIUI onto this phone, but we're pretty sure Meizu will eventually catch up and figure something out for us. But there you have it. This is the Meizu MX. It's coming out in China on January the 1st, and just slightly later on in the month in Hong Kong as well.